Hi there, and welcome to Church Without Walls, Day 8. Wonder if you've ever been asked if you know what the time is. I'm sure you have. It's a question which many Christians are asking in these days. What time is it? What time is it, not in terms of the clock, but what time is it in the history of the world? Are we living in the end times? Well, I can tell you categorically from the Bible that yes, we are living in the end times. We are indeed living in the last days. And I say that firstly because in the book of Acts in chapter 2, after the Holy Spirit came on the day of Pentecost, Peter got up to preach and he said this in response to the accusation of the people that they were drunk with wine, and of course they were drunk with the Holy Spirit. He said, "This is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in these days, and they will prophesy. I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." When Peter spoke those words all those years ago in the 1st century AD, he said that that was a fulfillment of that prophecy, that those were the last days. So the last days began on the day of Pentecost. And from that day to now, God's clock, his historical world clock coming to the end of the world, has been counting down. Because there are different ages or different seasons in the world's history. The world began with the season, the age of creation, when God created the heavens and the earth. Then there was the age before Abraham, the age of men and women on the earth and God's dealing with them. And then in Genesis chapter 12, God called Abraham and began a new age, the age of Israel, of his people. And that age continued until Jesus came. And that was an age of Christ on earth. And then he died and rose again back to heaven and sent his Spirit. And so began a new age, a new dispensation, a new season in the history of the world. And that age, that season, is the one that we're living in right now. From that day of the day of Pentecost until the day when the Lord comes back and begins another new age, another new season in the history of the world, we are living in this age, the age of the last days. Now, this age of the last days has lasted a long time. Jesus died in 33 AD and went back to heaven, and the day of Pentecost was in that year. So from that year to now, there has been a lot of years, nearly 2,000 years. 2,000 years of the last days. We can surely say that we are living in the last of the last days. The clock is ticking. Time is running out. Like the sand timer, there are not many grains of sand left to fall. And in the days coming, we'll be looking at some of the things that we're seeing in the Bible and in the world just now, indicating that these are very much the last of the last days. What a time to be alive. What an amazing, challenging time to be alive. But what a great opportunity we have to share the gospel with our friends and neighbours, to see a great harvest of souls. God promises that everyone who calls in the name of the Lord will be saved. Let's make sure that people know who to call on, because we can tell them what the time is. And today's time, today's day, is the day of salvation. God bless you. Speak to you again tomorrow.